She pulls away, but she never truly vanishes. And that's where most people misinterpret what's happening. They notice the space and assume the feelings have faded. They experience the silence and take it as a sign of indifference. But distance, more often than not, isn't the absence of emotion, it's the weight of it. Because when a woman misses you deeply, it doesn't always draw her closer. Sometimes it causes her to step back, not because she wants to lose you, but because she's afraid of losing herself in the intensity of what she feels. Think about it. When emotions are light, everything flows effortlessly. Messages come quickly, calls happen without hesitation, feelings are expressed without fear. But when emotions become overwhelming, when missing someone starts affecting your peace, your focus, your sense of control, that's when the mind intervenes and says, slow down, protect yourself. So she creates space, not total silence, not a complete cutoff, just enough distance to breathe, just enough to feel like she still has control. You'll notice it in subtle shifts. She used to reply instantly, now it takes hours. She once shared everything, now her messages are shorter, more guarded. She used to initiate conversations, now she waits. And to you, it feels like she's slipping away. But here's what most people fail to understand. If she truly didn't care, she wouldn't manage the distance at all. She would simply disappear. Creating space takes intention. It requires awareness. It means she's carefully deciding how much to give, how much to hold back, what to reveal, and what to keep hidden. And that only happens when there's something real inside her that she's trying to control. There's a simple story that captures this perfectly. A man noticed that a woman who once couldn't go a day without talking to him suddenly became distant. The calls stopped, the openness faded. Naturally, he assumed she was done. So he pulled back as well. But weeks later, something unexpected happened. She reacted to one of his stories, then another. Eventually, she sent a small, seemingly insignificant message, something that didn't even need to be said. And when they finally spoke again, he realized something surprising. She remembered details about his life that even he had forgotten mentioning. Now ask yourself, does that look like someone who moved on, or someone who tried to create distance but couldn't fully let go? This is the emotional conflict she lives with. On one side, she misses you. On the other, she's protecting her pride, her heart, her sense of control. Because opening up fully means risking rejection, risking being taken for granted, risking being the one who cares more, and no one wants to feel that way. So instead of expressing, she regulates. Instead of chasing, she withdraws. Instead of revealing, she conceals, but never completely. That's why she doesn't disappear entirely. She remains present in subtle ways. She watches. She observes. She checks in from a distance, not loudly or obviously, but consistently enough to keep the connection alive. This is where emotional awareness becomes essential. If you only look at the surface, you'll misread everything. You'll assume her distance means she's done. You'll interpret her silence as a lack of care. But if you look deeper, you'll begin to notice the pattern. She creates space, but she doesn't sever the bond. She steps back, but part of her remains emotionally connected. That's not weakness, it's human nature. Because letting go isn't as simple as people make it seem. Not when something was real. Not when the memories still exist. Not when the emotions haven't disappeared. They've just become harder to express. So she does what many people do when overwhelmed by their own feelings. She chooses distance over vulnerability. Not because she doesn't miss you, but because missing you has become too intense to express openly. And once you understand this, your reaction changes. You stop chasing. You stop assuming. You begin to observe, to understand, and to respond with clarity instead of confusion. Because sometimes the loudest "I miss you" is hidden inside silence, space, and carefully maintained distance. She may appear cold, but her actions reveal emotion. And this is where things become confusing, because what she says and what she does don't align. Her words may seem distant, even detached. She might say, "I'm fine," or "it doesn't matter," or behave as if you're just another person in her life. But her behavior tells a different story. And if you're not paying attention, you'll believe the words and miss the truth in her actions. The reality is, words are easy to control. Anyone can choose what to say. Anyone can pretend. But actions, especially the small unconscious ones, are much harder to fake. They come from what someone truly feels, not what they want you to believe. When a woman misses you but tries to hide it, she builds a wall with her words. She becomes careful, measured, emotionally neutral on the surface. But emotions don't disappear just because someone tries to suppress them. They find another way out. They leak. You'll see it in how she pays attention, even when she pretends not to. She may claim she's busy, yet still watch your stories. She may act uninterested, yet notice subtle changes in your behavior. She may avoid deep conversations, yet remember the smallest details about your life. That's not coincidence. That's hidden emotional investment. There's something powerful about this contradiction. Because if she truly didn't care, there would be consistency. Her words and actions would match. She would be indifferent in every way. No curiosity, no reactions, no emotional shifts. But when someone is hiding how much they care, inconsistency becomes the signal. Think of a real-life moment. She tells you she's moved on. She keeps conversations brief, avoids anything emotional, and acts like everything is normal. But then you casually mention another woman, and suddenly her tone shifts. She becomes quieter, maybe slightly defensive or irritated. Ask yourself, if she truly didn't care, why would that affect her at all? That reaction didn't come from logic, it came from emotion she's trying to suppress. Or consider another example. She teases you more than usual. On the surface, it seems playful, maybe even dismissive, but underneath, it's a way to stay connected without being vulnerable. Teasing feels safer than admitting she misses you. Sometimes, the signs are even more subtle. A delayed reply that feels intentional. A casual message sent at a moment when she's clearly been thinking about you. A shift in energy when you're around. Maybe she becomes quieter, or maybe she tries harder to appear unaffected. These aren't random behaviors. They're emotional signals breaking through the control she's trying to maintain. Because the truth is, real feelings don't just switch off. You can hide them, delay them, distract yourself, but you can't erase them instantly. They linger in the background, shaping behavior in ways you don't even notice. And this is where many people go wrong. They take everything at face value. If she says she doesn't care, they believe it. If she acts distant, they assume it's over. They ignore the subtle inconsistencies, the small emotional leaks that tell a completely different story. But understanding human behavior means looking beyond the obvious. It means asking, do her actions match her words? And when they don't, that's where the truth lies. Because someone who doesn't care is predictable, but someone who is hiding how much they care is full of contradictions. And those contradictions aren't weakness, they're evidence of an internal struggle. Part of her wants to express, to connect, to be honest. Another part holds her back, urging her to stay guarded, to maintain control, to avoid giving too much. So she exists in between, not fully open, not fully closed, saying one thing, showing another. And when you learn to recognize this pattern, the confusion disappears. You stop getting lost in mixed signals. You begin to see them for what they really are. Emotions trying to surface, even when they're being restrained. Because at the end of the day, words can mislead, but consistent behavior rarely does. She tries to move on, but part of her keeps looking back. And this is where the truth becomes impossible to hide, no matter how strong the mask is. Because moving on is something people show the world. Letting go is something that happens internally, quietly, slowly, and often reluctantly. On the surface, it may seem like she's doing everything right. She's focusing on herself, staying busy, rebuilding her routine, spending time with friends, exploring new opportunities, maybe even talking to someone new. To an outsider, it looks like progress. But what you don't see is how often her mind drifts backward, because emotional attachment doesn't follow logic. You can tell yourself it's over. You can convince yourself to move on. But feelings don't disappear just because circumstances change. They linger. They echo. They resurface when you least expect them. So instead of expressing it openly, she carries it quietly, and it shows up in patterns. A random memory comes back, a small moment you shared that meant everything to her, even if it seemed insignificant to anyone else. For a brief second, she feels it all again, not enough to act, but enough to remind her it's still there. Or she meets someone new. Everything seems fine on the surface. The conversation flows, the connection is decent, but without realizing it, she begins comparing, not consciously, but emotionally. She notices what feels different, what's missing, what doesn't feel the same. That's the part no one talks about. Moving on externally is easy. You can change your environment, your habits, the people around you. But emotionally, the mind clings to familiarity, to what once felt safe, understood, and real. There's a reason people revisit the past in their thoughts. The brain ties emotional memories to comfort, even if the situation wasn't perfect. So as she tries to move forward, her mind keeps pulling her back, not to cause pain, but to reconnect with something that once felt meaningful. And sometimes this shows up in the smallest ways. She checks your profile without interacting, watches your stories without reacting, asks about you through mutual friends, casually, as if it doesn't matter. And the most revealing moments happen when her guard is down, late at night, when everything is quiet. After a long day, when emotions feel heavier. In moments of vulnerability, when something reminds her of you, that's when the urge to reach out becomes strongest. Maybe she types a message, then deletes it. Maybe she starts a conversation but keeps it light, avoiding anything too revealing. Maybe she finds small, indirect reasons to connect, because she's not just dealing with her feelings, she's managing them. She doesn't want to seem weak. She doesn't want to reopen something that could hurt again. She doesn't want to be the one who couldn't let go. So she continues moving forward on the outside, while still being emotionally tied on the inside. And this creates a quiet tension, a constant push and pull between holding on and letting go, between what she shows and what she truly feels. That's why you'll notice inconsistency over time. Periods where she seems completely gone, followed by unexpected reappearances. Moments of distance, followed by subtle signs of presence. It's not random. It's the natural process of someone trying to detach from something that still carries emotional weight. Because real connections don't vanish overnight. They fade, they weaken, they evolve, but they don't simply disappear. And once you understand this, your perspective changes. You stop assuming that moving on means forgetting. You stop believing that silence means feelings are gone. You begin to recognize that sometimes people move forward, not because they're free, but because they're trying to be. And when a woman misses you deeply but hides it, her journey isn't about erasing you, it's about learning how to live with your absence while still carrying pieces of what once mattered.